Long before the umbrella became a lightweight, collapsible item tucked into handbags or car doors, it was a symbol of power, prestige, and human ingenuity. Its story stretches back thousands of years across ancient civilizations, shifting climates, and evolving technologies. The word umbrella comes from the Latin umbra, meaning shade or shadow, which reveals its earliest purpose not for keeping dry in the rain, but for providing shade from the sun. Long before waterproof fabric and steel frames, the umbrella was an object of ceremony, luxury, and sometimes even divine authority. The dawn of shade, ancient beginnings, circa 3000 BCE. In the scorching deserts of ancient Egypt, around 3000 BCE, the sun ruled the sky with unrelenting heat. The people of the Nile Valley, from pharaohs to laborers, sought ways to shield themselves from its glare. Among the earliest known umbrellas were parasols, broad, canopy-like structures held aloft to provide shade. These were not the umbrellas we know today, with their collapsible frames and waterproof fabrics, but large, rigid constructions made of palm leaves, feathers, or stretched animal hides. They were mounted on long poles, often carried by servants to protect nobles and royalty as they moved through the bustling streets of cities like Thebes. In Mesopotamia, around the same time, similar devices appeared. Carvings on stone reliefs show kings shaded by attendants holding wide, fringed canopies. These early umbrellas were heavy, requiring multiple people to carry them, and were symbols of power rather than practical tools. Only the elite, kings, queens, and high priests, could afford such luxury, as the materials and labor were costly. The parasol's presence in art and inscriptions suggests it was as much a status symbol as a functional object, its broad shade marking the importance of the person beneath it. Across the world in ancient China, around the 11th century BCE, another form of the umbrella emerged. The Chinese crafted parasols from silk or bamboo, materials abundant in their lush forested regions. These early umbrellas were lighter than their Egyptian counterparts, with frames made of flexible bamboo strips and coverings of oiled paper or silk, sometimes treated with wax to repel water. Unlike the purely sun-protective parasols of Egypt, Chinese umbrellas were used for both sun and rain, a practical adaptation to the region's varied climate. Historical records, like those from the Zhou dynasty, described nobles carrying these umbrellas during ceremonies, their bright colors and intricate designs signaling wealth and refinement. The umbrella's early history was tied to its role as a shield against sun, rain, or even spiritual forces. In Egypt, parasols were sometimes used in religious rituals, believed to connect the shaded person to the divine. In China, they appeared in festivals, their delicate frames adorned with calligraphy or painted flowers. These early umbrellas, though simple in purpose, laid the foundation for a tool that would evolve over millennia, carried across continents by trade, conquest, and curiosity. Spreading across the world, umbrellas in Asia and Europe, 1000 BCE to 1500 CE. As centuries passed, the umbrella traveled along trade routes, carried by merchants and conquerors. By 1000 BCE, it had reached India, where it became a symbol of royalty. Sanskrit texts mention chhatra, large parasols held over kings during processions. These were often made of silk, embroidered with gold threads and supported by carved wooden poles. In India, the umbrella's role was ceremonial, its size and decoration reflecting the ruler's authority. Temples and palaces featured umbrella-like domes, linking the object to divine protection. In ancient Greece, around the 5th century BCE, umbrellas appeared in art, particularly in scenes of women walking under canopies held by attendants. Made of lightweight fabrics like linen, these parasols were used primarily for sun protection, as Greek summers were harsh. In Rome, by the 1st century CE, umbrellas were common among the wealthy, often carried by slaves to shield patricians from the Mediterranean sun. Roman umbrellas were sometimes made of leather or cloth, stretched over wooden frames, and were used in public events like chariot races or gladiator games. In East Asia, the umbrella continued to evolve. In Japan, by the 6th century CE, umbrellas known as wagasa were crafted from bamboo and washi paper, coated with oil to make them waterproof. These were used by monks, nobles, and later commoners, their elegant designs becoming a staple of Japanese culture. In Korea, similar umbrellas appeared, often painted with vibrant patterns. Across Asia, the umbrella's dual role as sun and rain shield made it indispensable, its portability improving as artisans refined the balance between strength and weight. In medieval Europe, umbrellas were rare but not unknown. By the 12th century, they appeared in religious contexts, particularly in the Catholic Church. The ombrellino, a small canopy, was used to shade sacred objects during processions, symbolizing reverence. These were often made of silk or velvet, richly decorated and carried by clergy. Outside religious settings, umbrellas remained uncommon in Europe, as the climate was cooler and sun protection less critical. Instead, cloaks and hats were preferred for rain, and the umbrella remained a luxury item, associated with distant lands and exotic wealth. The umbrella's spread was slow but steady, carried by cultural exchange. Silk Road traders brought Chinese designs to Persia, where they were adapted with intricate embroidery. In Southeast Asia, umbrellas became part of royal regalia, their canopies symbolizing the sky's protection over the ruler. By the end of the Middle Ages, the umbrella was known across much of the world, but its use was still limited to the elite, its construction too complex and costly for ordinary people. The umbrella goes mainstream, Europe in the 18th century. By the 1700s, Europe was ready for the umbrella to become more than a status symbol. In England, a key figure emerged, Jonas Hanway, a merchant and philanthropist. Around the 1750s, Hanway began carrying an umbrella in London, using it to protect himself from the city's frequent rain. His umbrella, likely inspired by those he saw during travels in Persia, was made of oiled silk stretched over a wooden frame. It was heavy and cumbersome, but it worked. Hanway's habit drew attention and ridicule. At the time, men used cloaks or hats for rain, and umbrellas were seen as feminine or foreign. Carriage drivers, who relied on selling rides in bad weather, mocked Hanway, but he persisted, carrying his umbrella for decades. Hanway's example gradually caught on. By the late 18th century, umbrellas were becoming more common in England, particularly among women. Made of silk or cotton, they were still expensive, but offered a practical alternative to soggy cloaks. In France, umbrellas were already fashionable, often adorned with lace or ruffles. They were called parapluie, from para, meaning to shield, and pluie, meaning rain, a term that reflected their growing use against wet weather. In Paris, umbrella makers established guilds, refining designs with lighter frames and more durable fabrics. The materials of this era were a mix of old and new. Frames were typically made of whalebone or wood, which were either too fragile or too heavy. Coverings were silk, cotton, or oiled canvas, which could repel water but grew heavy when wet. Umbrellas were still handmade, their production requiring skilled labor, which kept prices high. Yet their convenience was undeniable, and by the 1780s, shops in London and Paris advertised portable umbrellas for urban dwellers navigating rainy streets. The umbrella's rise in Europe marked a shift. It was no longer just a symbol of wealth or ceremony, but a tool for everyday life. As cities grew and people spent more time outdoors, the umbrella's practicality won over skeptics. By the end of the century, it was a common sight, carried by merchants, ladies, and even children, its canopy a shield against the unpredictable weather of a changing world. A revolution in design. The 19th century. The 19th century brought the umbrella into the modern age thanks to technological advances. In 1852, Samuel Fox, an English inventor, revolutionized umbrella design by introducing steel ribs. Before this, umbrella frames were made of whalebone or wood, which were either too fragile or too heavy. Fox's steel ribs were strong, lightweight, and flexible, allowing umbrellas to be more durable and portable. His company, Fox Umbrellas, became a leading manufacturer, and the design, known as the Paragon frame, remains the basis for modern umbrellas. Steel ribs made umbrellas more affordable, as they could be produced in larger quantities. Factories in England, France, and Germany began mass-producing umbrellas using machines to cut and assemble parts. Coverings improved too, with tightly woven cotton and silk blends replacing oiled fabrics. These new materials were lighter and more water-resistant, making umbrellas practical for daily use. By the 1870s, umbrellas were no longer a luxury, but a necessity, carried by people of all classes in Europe and North America. The 19th century also saw the umbrella become a fashion statement. In Victorian England, women carried parasols with laced edges or floral patterns, matching them to their dresses. Men preferred sober, black umbrellas, often with carved wooden handles, as a mark of respectability. Umbrella shops proliferated, offering custom designs and repairs. In cities like New York and Chicago, umbrellas became essential for urban life, protecting people from rain and snow as they navigated growing metropolises. Globally, the umbrella continued to evolve. In Japan, Wagasa umbrellas remained popular, their craftsmanship unchanged for centuries. In colonial India, British settlers introduced European-style umbrellas which merged with local designs to create hybrid parasols. In Africa, umbrellas became symbols of authority in some regions, carried by chiefs during ceremonies. The umbrella's versatility, practical, decorative, symbolic, made it a global phenomenon, its form adapting to each culture's needs. The modern umbrella. 20th century and beyond. The 20th century brought the umbrella to its modern form. In the 1920s, inventors began experimenting with collapsible designs, allowing umbrellas to fold into compact shapes. By the 1960s, the telescopic umbrella, with a frame that could collapse into a small tube, became widely available. These were made possible by advances in materials, like aluminum for frames and synthetic fabrics like nylon for canopies. Nylon was lightweight, durable, and highly water-resistant, making it ideal for modern umbrellas. By the mid-20th century, umbrellas were ubiquitous. They were sold in department stores, street markets, and even vending machines in places like Japan. Designs became more varied, from clear plastic domes to brightly colored patterns. Umbrellas also became promotional items, branded with company logos or slogans, a testament to their widespread use. The umbrella's cultural role continued to evolve. In Hong Kong's 2014 protests, umbrellas became symbols of resistance used to shield protesters from tear gas and rain. In fashion, designers like Chanel and Burberry created luxury umbrellas, blending practicality with style. Technologically, some modern umbrellas incorporated wind-resistant frames or UV protective coatings, reflecting their dual role as sun and rain shields. Today, the umbrella remains a staple of daily life. From compact models tucked into bags to sturdy golf umbrellas, they come in countless forms. Their basic design, frame, canopy, handle, has changed little since the 19th century, a testament to the ingenuity of earlier inventors. Yet they continued to adapt with innovations like automatic opening mechanisms or eco-friendly materials. The umbrella's history is one of gradual improvement,
each era building on the last to create a tool that is both timeless and ever-changing.